Hello, guys, and welcome to the Wellness with Delaney podcast. I am so excited because this is our very first episode. This has been something that I have been dreaming and scheming about for so long. So I'm so excited to bring all of the juicy wellness tips and tricks to you in this brand new platform. And we are going to have such a good time unraveling so many layers to health and wellness to find what works for you to help you live your best ever life. So today I have a really fun episode for you. We are actually going to be talking about a very hot topic in today's society, and that is the vegan diet. There are so many different sources of information, so many different narratives going around about veganism, about carnivore diet, about keto, about all these different ways of eating and living. And today I want to break down a lot of the different science things that are just so difficult for people to access or understand and help you really be able to make an informed decision for your diet, how you're going to eat, and whether or not a plant-based diet is something that is actually even worth it or beneficial for you. So as we get into this episode, I do want to let you know that none of this is meant to make anyone feel judged or ostracized if they do live a vegan lifestyle. I don't judge you for your eating choices. If anything, the only people that I do have an issue with are the big corporations that profit off of misinformation, that manipulate people, that gaslight people into thinking something is healthy when it's not. The people themselves, the individuals, I have nothing but love and respect for everyone. In fact, I was actually vegan for about 5 years. So, if anything, I'm coming from this from a point of not only science and health coaching expertise, but also understanding. I understand the draw towards a plant-based diet. I understand the moral dilemma, the health information, the all the different factors that go into deciding to become plant-based or vegan, which they're the same but different. But I also understand that a lot of the ideologies that get people to become vegan are rooted in manipulation and gaslighting, and honestly, in conglomerate corporations wanting to get richer. So let's get into it, you guys. Buckle up because we have an amazing first episode for you today. So, my story with veganism starts in about 2018. I actually had been off and on plant-based, vegetarian, dairy-free, you name it, for the past maybe 10 years at this point. In 2018, I was 20 years old and I decided to go plant-based. So I was vegan, except I ate honey. I wore leather, so I didn't do a vegan lifestyle. It was purely about health and diet. So at this point in my life, I did want to lose weight. I was feeling a little bit heavy. I just come off of several months of volunteer work and traveling and not having the diet that I wanted to have, not having control over a lot of things in my schedule and my eating. And I definitely did puff up. So when I found out that you can immediately lose weight being vegan, I was so inspired and excited. And I will say I did immediately lose a ton of weight. If you knew me at this time, you would know that I started veganism and maybe 6 months later, I was a skinny girl. It was a really drastic change and it was really immediate. But I think, like so many people, because I lost weight, that caused me to lose sight of what was going on inside my body in other ways that maybe I couldn't see. So, yes, I was losing weight and I was feeling so much more confident in myself, but I wasn't realizing that insidiously my thyroid was starting to fail. My hormones were getting jacked up. My skin was getting less clear. All these things were starting to come up in my life. And because I was losing weight, because I was getting my goal body, I had a hard time equating those things to veganism. I really wanted to hold on to this diet and lifestyle because I thought it was working so well for me. And I think this is the story for so many people. Because they lose weight when they're vegan, it's hard for them to acknowledge that they actually are beginning to falter in other areas of their health that maybe aren't so visible and aren't so obvious. So, why is this? Why is veganism causing people to be unhealthy at a cellular level? First of all, the vegan diet is highly processed. So many of the plant-based burgers and alternatives and dairies and just egg, all these different plant-based alternatives out there are full of inflammatory ingredients and even are not organic. plant-based foods are notorious for having high levels of glyphosate. Glyphosate is a weed killer that's used in a lot of different areas, and not only our yards, but in our food as well. And it can wreak havoc on our bodies at a cellular level. Glyphosate is horrible for increasing the risk of cancer, for disrupting hormones, for decreasing sperm count in men, and so much more. And the vegan diet, especially if you're eating those highly processed vegan alternatives like those burgers, vegan meats, dairy, etc., you're going to be taking a lot of glyphosate just naturally. A lot of these foods are not organic, and they're so full of pesticides and herbicides and all these things that are going to wreak havoc on your system. Another issue with processed plant-based foods is seed oils. There are so many seed oils and vegetable oils in these processed plant-based, dairy-free, meat-free foods. And the reason this is harmful is because these seed oils are extremely inflammatory for the body and can lead to oxidative stress. So they are omega-6 fatty acids. They're polyunsaturated fatty acids, or PUFAs for short, which I think is such a funny word. That is just my 12-year-old sense of humor. But they essentially slow down the brain metabolism. They also can lead to a lot of oxidative stress in the body because there are so many places where oxygen molecules can attach to omega-6 fatty acids. What this is going to do is cause oxidative stress in your body. You're going to end up with free radicals in your body. This can lead to cellular damage, DNA damage. It can lead to early aging, not only on the inside, but on the outside as well. So I know that a lot of people will say seed oils are actually okay or have different reasons for being okay with them. I am heavily in the camp of no seed oils. They are so inflammatory. They also can lead to increased risk of skin cancer, of sunburn in the day-to-day. You really want to be working on getting your inflammation down. These seed oils and high omega-6 oils are going to bring your inflammation up. Ultimately, it's a really bad thing for cellular damage, DNA damage, aging, like I said, and the best thing you can do is avoid them altogether. Now, this is going to lend to the question, what about people who want to be whole food plant-based and want to not eat meat, dairy, or eggs, but want to do it in a more natural, unprocessed way? Unfortunately, this diet also has plenty of issues of its own, and I'm going to get into all the reasons why you don't want to be whole food plant-based, because a lot of these foods are actually actively working against your health at a very deep molecular level. So a lot of the high protein whole food plant-based foods such as legumes and grains are really full of what is called phytic acid and oxalic acid. This is also present in dark leafy greens, I do want to add. So kale and spinach can fall into this group, even though they aren't common plant-based proteins, they are common plant-based staples. They also are really high in phytic acid. So what are phytic acid and oxalic acid, and why are they such a big issue? These are two compounds in plants that literally steal the minerals from your tissues. So if you're eating a lot of grains, especially whole grains, if you're eating a lot of lentils, soy, beans, legumes, peanuts, you name it, which are the staple plant-based proteins, and if you're eating a lot of raw, dark leafy greens, you are going to be taking in a lot of phytic acid and oxalic acid. So like I said, these two things, phytic acid and oxalic acid, steal minerals from your tissues. Why are minerals so important? While they're not a very talked about nutrient, we talk a lot about adaptogens, nootropics, vitamins, all these different things. Minerals are really a really important thing to be taking in our diet and to be storing up in our bodies. It's actually really hard for me to overemphasize their importance. Minerals are needed for so many functions in the body, from energy to metabolism to bone health, hormone health, blood pressure, gut health, immunity, creating genetic material, so fetal development, sexual health, sperm health, diabetes prevention, and the list literally continues to go on. We need minerals for our overall health, and without them, we are going to be so low energy and so fatigued, and so many functions of our bodies will begin to shut down. For instance, some really important minerals for thyroid health are iodine and selenium, which are really hard to get in a plant-based diet. So when I was plant-based for 5 years and I was eating all those high phytic acid and oxalic acid foods, my thyroid tanked. And here I am years later, still working towards healing it because I completely trashed my thyroid by depleting my mineral levels and not getting the foods that I needed to support my health at an internal level. So even if you're supplementing minerals, if you are plant-based, it's still not going to be good enough. And that is the really sad thing about this. These high phytic acid and oxalic acid foods don't just take minerals from your tissues that you need to resupplement later on. They actually will steal the minerals out of your diet. So even if you're supplementing minerals, all these foods, your grains, your lentils, your soy, your tofu, all of that, your dark leafy greens, are going to be basically working against your supplement regimen and stealing those minerals from your tissues, from your diet, so that you might as well not even be taking them to begin with. It is a really harmful way to live, and when you're mineral deficient, you feel it. We need different minerals for literally every function in our body to function optimally. Now that I'm not vegan, I feel such a big difference in my body. My mineral levels have been really raising lately because I've been really careful about not eating all these high phytic acid and oxalic acid foods and really supplementing all the different minerals that I need back into my body. And I can tell you my energy levels are so much higher than they used to be. My skin is more clear, my digestion is better, I'm having regular periods. I mean, every function of your body improves when you can get your minerals. So if you are eating a whole food plant-based diet, even if you're not getting those omega-6 fatty acids, even if you're not getting all the glyphosate, if it's everything is organic in your diet, you're going to be taking in these acids that are working against your body, working against your health, and will make it so much harder for you to succeed at living a healthy, optimal life, at feeling your best and at looking your best. So that is why I'm still not on board for the whole food plant-based diet. So many people try to catch you with the, well, what if you eat the unprocessed food, the high quality vegan proteins? I actually don't think there's such thing as a high quality vegan protein. The highest quality protein you can get out there is animal based protein, and that has been proven time and time again, because proper animal based protein, grass fed steak, pasture raised eggs, good wild caught seafood like oysters, all these things are full of minerals. So they're mineral rich. They're going to help you build those stores and feel so much better, where the high quality vegan proteins are stealing your minerals. So if we're just weighing apples to apples, clearly the animal based protein is the way to go for increasing your mineral levels. So unfortunately, there is even more controversy with all of the vegan foods, like high quality, quote unquote, proteins, those legumes, those beans, the soy, the grains, and even nightshade vegetables are also high in something else that we really want to minimize in our diets. It's called lectins. If you haven't heard of lectins, they are protective compounds inside food that basically prevents them from being eaten. These plants don't want to be eaten because it kills the plant. So they have adapted to have these compounds that will over time weaken you, they will fatigue you, and the whole point is to protect themselves. They don't want to be consumed. We want to consume them, and we become weaker over time by doing that. Lectins can cause leaky gut by basically putting tiny holes in your intestinal wall, and then inflammatory compounds can actually leave the digestive system and enter the bloodstream, causing increased inflammation in the body. Now, our body can fight inflammation, and your body will fight inflammation if you're eating a lot of lectin foods. The problem is all that energy that's being expended into fighting the inflammation in your body is now being put there instead of into other important functions in your body. So instead of having energy to critically think, to start something new in your life, a new career, to get a workout program going, to just feel better throughout the day, whatever it is that you need to do to have clear skin, to have balanced hormones, etc., all that energy is going into fighting inflammation. It's going to leave you super fatigued and super tired, and you're not going to have energy for all the other important things you want to do, and also all the other important things your body needs to do in order to be optimal. So at the end of the day, eliminating or at least minimizing foods with high lectins is something that is really good for everyone, whether or not you're plant-based. So like I said, that will be like whole grains, that is legumes, so lentils, beans, peanuts, cashews, soy, also nightshade vegetables, so white potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, for example. They're really high in lectins, and the best thing you can do is actually minimize them. I haven't been vegan in a long time, but I've been cutting out a lot of grains and a lot of nightshades in my own diet. And the difference I feel is astounding. I pretty much immediately feel an increased level of energy. I still obviously eat vegetables. I still obviously do sometimes eat my fresh sourdough bread, but minimizing those things and then eating the right vegetables will make a huge difference in your health. So instead of eating those vegetables that have lectins and also the vegetables that have phytic acid and oxalic acid, the best thing you can do is eat vegetables that are not going to have those things. So carrots are a great example of a vegetable that's really, really good for you. Cucumber, peel it to get all the lectins out of the peel. Peeled cucumber is amazing. Even doing lighter lettuce, I've actually switched over to doing organic romaine, more arugula, things like that, instead of those dark, dense, leafy greens. Great options for you, because even if you're eating meat, I still personally love eating vegetables. I think those carbohydrates, that roughage, all those different things that you get from vegetables are really important. So I'm still not a carnivore. I'm more of an omnivore, but it's all about eating the right vegetables. So whether or not you're vegan, you really do want to avoid some of these things so that you're going to have a lot more energy. Another issue with veganism that people do talk about a lot, but we're going to break down a little bit more, is a lot of times if you're vegan, or pretty much all the time, you're going to have some vitamin and nutrient deficiencies. The vegan diet, while you can get some crucial vitamins in it, is not complete. You're not going to be getting a lot of the things that you actually need for optimal function. So a list of different vitamins, nutrients, minerals that are missing from plant-based diets would be iron, zinc, carcinine, iodine, taurine, riboflavin, omega-3, vitamin B12, creatine, choline, vitamin A, calcium, vitamin D, and C15 fatty acid. That's just a starting list of all the things that the vegan diet is deficient in. A really common misconception that a lot of people have about veganism is because the diet tends to be high in beta carotene, that you're getting enough vitamin A. Beta carotene is actually not vitamin A, and this is a really common misconception that a lot of vegans have. Beta carotene can be converted into vitamin A in the body, but the problem is, in order to do that, you need enough animal protein, minerals, and vitamin E to properly convert beta carotene into vitamin A. Now, you can get vitamin E pretty easily in a vegan diet, but you obviously are not going to be getting animal proteins, and you're not going to be getting enough minerals. We already covered that. So if you're taking in beta carotene hoping to get that retinol form vitamin A that you can find in animal-based protein, you are actually going to be very deficient in vitamin A because that conversion is not going to be happening in the body. So now that we've covered a lot of the different health issues behind veganism, we've covered that veganism depletes your minerals, that a lot of the vegan foods are full of inflammatory omega-6, it's full of glyphosate, that there's those oxalic acids, the phytic acids that take your minerals. We have lectins that are destroying your body from the inside out. I mean, from a health standpoint, I think it's pretty clear why veganism is not the way to go. It's just not, honestly, it's not a healthy diet. There's so many things wrong with it and very little right with it from a health standpoint. We kind of enter into a new angle, and that is the moral dilemma. I know a lot of people who have commented on some of my content about veganism saying, yeah, it makes sense that you want to be an omnivore for your health, but morally, I can't eat anything with a face. I get this comment all the time. So I actually did some math for you. So I'm going to be reading from notes because this is some real math. If we're talking about the moral dilemma with death, one thing that I really love is Dave Asprey's explanation of the death per calorie when it comes to eating meat. So if you look at a vegan diet, let's look at a soy field where, they're growing the soy that's going to go into your Impossible burgers, into your tofu, into all those different things that you're eating. In those soy fields live thousands and thousands of little creatures. We have turtles, frogs, bunnies, earthworms, you name it. Thousands of little furry creatures, little hopping creatures, and that is their ecosystem. That is their home. They take these massive plows through these soy fields in order to harvest it, killing all of these animals, laying waste to the land, killing them, smashing them into the ground, leaving their carcasses in this barren ground for the birds to come and pick at. So really, even if you're eating a vegan diet, trying not to kill animals, trying not to contribute to a death count, there are thousands of deaths behind the vegan diet just from the way that vegan foods are processed and harvested. So this is where the math comes in. So bear with me. I obviously have notes because this is real math. So I want to think about my grass-fed cow, what I eat. So yes, a cow did die. I'm going to be honest, a cow did die for me to eat a steak. But here's the thing. We've already established that there are thousands of deaths involved in eating vegan foods. If I'm eating a grass-fed cow, which naturally already is going to have a higher death per calorie count than a grain-fed cow, because grass-fed cows don't get as big, which there's a lot behind that we can definitely get into in another episode, but they might be slaughtered around 1,000 to 1,200 pounds. That yields conservatively about 500 pounds of meat. So 500 pounds of meat converts to about 8,000 ounces of steak. Now we have 8,000 ounces of steak, and I will likely eat a 6-ounce grass-fed steak in one meal. So if we're looking at my 6-ounce steak, this has a 0.00075 death per meal. So that's not even per calorie. That's per meal. So death per calorie, even less. So if we're looking at the death count, the ratio between a typical vegan diet, whether or not you're eating processed food, if you're eating soy or all these mass harvested plant-based foods, or if you're eating a grass-fed steak, a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ounce steak, the death count per that meal is actually way less to just eat the freaking steak. Steak eats grass. They're not killing other animals to make it if they're doing correctly. You're eating the steak. A cow is huge. It actually morally, personally, to me, makes a lot more sense just to eat the meat, because that is literally such a small amount of death for so many meals versus thousands of creatures being killed for your impossible glyphosate burger that honestly tastes like radioactive goo anyways. So one more area that people are really, really conflicted about, that I get a lot of messages about, a lot of comments about, is what about these documentaries that so clearly paint out the reasons why we need to be vegan from not only a moral standpoint, but a health standpoint. We see really conflicting information in different documentaries. For instance, I know there's a really popular documentary, The Game Changers. People ask me if I've seen it. The answer is yes, I've seen it. I've seen it multiple times back when I was vegan, and I too was so blown away and so compelled strongly by this documentary. I thought it was so powerful. I thought it was so life-changing, and everyone needed to see it, because if people could only watch this documentary, they would all be vegan too. Their health would be radically transformed too. Here's the thing though, where a lot of people say follow the science, follow the research, I say follow the money. If we look at all of these different documentaries being made to promote a vegan lifestyle and demote an animal-based protein lifestyle, look who's producing them. Look who's funding them and investing in them. Typically speaking, the people who are working either on producing or investing in these movies have financial interest, have something to gain by you being vegan. So let's take as an example the Game Changers documentary, because it was a wildly popular success. This documentary absolutely popped off. People were buzzing about it. I was buzzing about it. I totally was manipulated and gaslit by this documentary. So James Cameron was the executive producer of this documentary. He's a pretty popular filmmaker. Although what I did not know at the time was he and his wife had started a vegan food company. So by getting you to be vegan, he can put a lot of money in his pockets. So you might ask me, well, what if he just wants to capitalize on the health benefits of veganism? How is that any different than somebody who wants to create a grass-fed steak company and then promoting eating steak? The difference is producing vegan food is so cheap compared to producing high quality meat. You can produce vegan food for pennies and upcharge it so much by promoting it as a healthy, trendy, and groundbreaking diet. So people will actually make a lot more money by selling vegan foods than they will by selling properly created meat. And I'm not talking industrial, grain-fed, whatever meat. I'm talking proper farm-raised, grass-fed, all that meat. They can make so much money by getting you to be vegan. So why wouldn't they promote it? Why wouldn't they consider it a very healthy route for people to take if they can profit like crazy off of it? We're talking about all these vegan food companies, Impossible, Beyond, this company that James Cameron founded with his wife. They're all putting money and backing into these documentaries in order to gaslight and manipulate people like you and me into being vegan so that can line their pockets with more money, make them richer while our health suffers and while we become desolate, stripped of our minerals, weak, and fatigued. So that is just something that I want to caution you guys to think about. Yes, there might be documentaries that share such powerful, compelling information, but who is behind these documentaries? Who profits off these documentaries? Do they really have your best interest at heart, or do they want to make another $1 billion off of people falling into this lifestyle, into this vegan conglomerate whole chain of eating? It's just not the way to go. It is unfortunately so misconstrued by the public as a healthy, sustainable option. Really, it contributes to so many deaths of little creatures and is contributing to weakness in people. It's contributing to people actually not having the energy to do more in their bodies, do more with their lives, and to people stripping their bodies of minerals and becoming really, really inflamed. So now we're going to get into the question of what should you be eating? How should I eat? If veganism isn't good, I don't want to be a carnivore. Like, how am I supposed to eat? Seems like everything out there is poisoning me. And I have totally experienced this feeling so overwhelmed by the information that all these foods that I thought were health foods are actually poisoning my body, are actually stealing from my body. Like, how the heck do I eat? How do I heal my body, be energized, have my best physique, feel amazing, like all these things? What do I do? And so I think the best thing you can do is start one thing at a time. I threw a lot of different foods at you that are not great for your body. If something's your favorite food, you can still eat it, just in moderation. Maybe cutting out the things that you don't love so much that are working against your body. I still eat sourdough bread. I still eat things that have some phytic acid, like dark chocolate. But I'm not eating these things all the time. And I'm cutting out a lot of legumes, a lot of lentils, a lot of grains, like all these things I'm just really minimizing in my diet, but I will still make room for my favorite things. I think that's really important because life is still about joy. And with that, instead of eating soy, instead of eating these processed seed oil, whatever, plant-based proteins, try eating a grass-fed and finished steak. That is going to be a great source of protein with omega-3 fats. So the steak is one of the best meats for you to eat if it's properly done because it's going to have a lot of omega-3s instead of a lot of omega-6s. Also have those pasture-raised organic eggs. They're so good for you, so full of good protein and minerals and so many different vitamins that you want to get into your diet. They are such an easy way to eat. And even if you're kind of grossed out by meat, this is a great gateway into meat. Raw dairy, another great way to get protein into your diet. We'll definitely cover dairy on a deeper level in another episode, but eating raw cheese, drinking raw milk, raw goat's milk, doing all these things is going to be so good for not only getting proteins, but getting those really good fats into your diet, like C15 fat, that are really important for protecting your cells at a really deep level. Other really important animal-based foods that I really love are like raw oysters, such a great source of zinc, so many good minerals in them, and they're honestly delicious. So, I mean, there are really just so many possibilities when it comes to eating a more omnivore diet. The ultimate thing is finding what works for you, finding what you like, what you enjoy, and what makes you feel the best. But I would say the best way to start is just try to eliminate some of those plant-based proteins from your diet. Swap them out for a steak. Literally do it multiple times a week. There's so many people saying that eating too much red meat is bad for you. I actually say eating the wrong red meat is bad for you. If I had more money, I would eat a grass-fed steak every single day. And someday that is the goal. Someday I will eat a grass-fed steak every day, my filet mignon with a little caviar on top. It'll be so good. But you can eat a lot of steak if you're eating good grass-fed and finished organic steak. You can eat a lot of it and it'll be amazing for your body. It all comes down to eating the right steak, not eating that cheap industrial garbage, eating good grass-fed from a farm pasture-raised steak. I know this can be really overwhelming for people who want to do a massive overhaul in their diet, in their life to become healthy. And I want to caution you against trying to do everything at once. If you try to make every single change in the same day, you will become overwhelmed, you will become fatigued, and it'll be really hard unless you're one of those very few who has the mental capacity to just overhaul their whole life cold turkey. I personally did not. I actually transitioned out of veganism very slowly. I probably could have done it much faster, but it took me a couple years to get out of veganism. Now, I don't want you to wait a couple years to transition, but even if you give yourself a couple weeks or a couple months, I think that's really, really okay, especially if you have a lot of food that you've invested in that's already in your pantry. I'm not telling you to go throw out all the food that you've put a lot of hard-earned money into curating. I get it. In this economy, no one wants to do that, but just start slowly replacing. So for me, one day I decided that I was going to eat seafood. So I started eating seafood. And then months later, I decided I wanted to start eating pasture-raised eggs. I started doing that. When I was in Europe last year, I was like, you know what? I want to eat dairy. I want to eat cheese. Why not start here? So I ate cheese. And then earlier this year, like beginning of this year, I was like, I need to start eating red meat. And then I started getting my weekly filet mignon, and I'm obsessed. And it's been a really seamless and smooth transition for me over multiple years. Like I said, you don't need to take multiple years to transition out of veganism. For me, I was still kind of holding on to that lifestyle until I wasn't. But ultimately, start with one thing at a time. What seems the least overwhelming to you? Which of these animal-based proteins seems the most enticing to you? Like it will be the least gross if you're kind of stuck in that veganism cycle right now. Start with that. Your body will tell you when it's ready to introduce something else. Give your body patience. Give it time. You don't have to overhaul everything at once. But what you can do today is make one change. Go to the store and buy one animal-based protein that you think you would like, a high-quality one, please, grass-fed steak, pasture-raised eggs, and start there. Because at the end of the day, even a small change is a good change. If you're already eating a very vegan lifestyle and you want to switch, one little tiny diet change is going to make a massive difference. So don't feel like you have to overhaul everything at once after listening to this, unless you want to. If you're somebody who has a capacity for that, great. But it's okay to be patient with yourself. Slowly begin to transition out of veganism. That's my 2 cents, you guys. I know this information here is hefty. You might have to listen to it more than once to really let it all sink in. And I know this might make a couple people not so happy. But at the end of the day, not only have I researched veganism as a health coach, but I have also experienced it as a human. And I can tell you that the difference in my body, my energy levels, my thyroid, my skin, my hair, my nails, everything between when I was vegan and now is like night and day. The number one thing, aside from getting off of birth control, that I've done for my health in the past decade is getting off of veganism. Veganism destroyed my body. I know it's destroying so many other bodies, which is why I'm so passionate about this message. And I just want to really encourage you to think outside the box, to start considering who is funding different initiatives that tell you what to eat and what to do, and start just getting really, really critical. Anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this message, this podcast today. Thank you so much for listening, and I am so excited for what's coming. Season 1 has so many amazing topics. We're interviewing a lot of experts in the wellness field, a lot of really inspiring founders of wellness companies that are just really, really inspiring to me personally, and I know will be to you. So you guys stay tuned. Please subscribe, like, review, and just help me get this word out there. I am just really excited about having this new avenue to share with all of you about health and wellness that hopefully you can learn from, and I know I'm going to be learning from as I interview some really awesome experts in the field. You guys have a wonderful day, and I can't wait to talk to you soon.